Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Life from There's podcast. A lot of big news has come out this last couple of weeks. So I'm going to talk about some of the headlines, some of the new watches that have been released. I think it's pretty awesome that going into the summer months, there's a lot of change and a lot of cool watches that have been released. It's always great, gives you an opportunity to explore some new things, even though there's a lot of auctions that happen in the summer, but there's also some new watches that companies release. Some pretty cool stuff, and pretty exciting to be reading and experiencing it as a watch enthusiast. I'll start off with some pretty big news out of the Audemars based company Audemars Piguet, which has announced that they have announced the new CEO that will be taking over the brand. Ilaria Aresta will be joining the company in August, and she will be the Chief Executive Officer beginning January 1st, 2024. This has been François-Henri Benamias has announced that he was going to be leaving the company after 30 years of extreme success at the brand. I think anyone who's followed watches knows that Audemars Piguet has had a lot of success in the past 30 years. A lot of people have looked to the brand to produce innovative and seismic watches that mark sort of real milestones for the company. Some of those launches include some of the Royal Oak, really expansion of the Royal Oak, to things like the Royal Oak Black Panther Flying Tourbillon. He also released the launch of the Code 1159, which was obviously taken by some in stride for the brand and some not, but I do think that it marks a really big achievement by Benamias as CEO of Audemars Piguet. So Resta will be taking over, as I mentioned, in the beginning of 2024. She'll begin, I think, in August, just to start doing some shadowing and sort of learning the ropes. She has really great international background that was mainly in the cosmetics industry. She led a lot of major divisions and built up brands for the companies that she worked for. One of them being Procter & Gamble. It's interesting, Procter & Gamble seems to be a place where a lot of watch CEOs and watch enthusiasts, or I guess people work in the watch industry, come from, or they have some sort of affiliation with it. I think of Max Bruiser, who was going to work for Procter & Gamble, but ended up going to Lecoultre, which is quite an interesting shift. The press release from the chairman of Audemars Piguet sort of said that Ms. Resta will take over Audemars Piguet into the future as we continue to develop our brand, blend tradition with innovation, and strengthen our direct connections to clients. Her proven record of delivering results through a clear strategic thinking based on deep consumer insights will keep AP's legacy relevant for generations to come and ensure long-lasting growth. What's really exciting is that when you have one of these appointments, you know that this person is probably going to be at the helm for quite a while, 30 years for Benamias, and Resta is probably going to have something similar. It really gives her time to understand the brand, understand where she wants to take it, and do some innovative things. She's obviously got the Code 1159 that she'll have to grapple with and see where she takes that line of watches, but she also has a big responsibility when taking over a watch brand that has such an iconic model, being the Royal Oak. So it'll be interesting to see what she ends up doing with that. So congratulations, Audemars Piguet. Congratulations, Ms. Resta. I think it's going to be great, and looking forward to seeing what the future holds. Shifting focus to a brand that many of us love, Omega has announced 3 new options to their Seamaster Aquaterra Worldtimer line. There's some really cool examples that they've included here. They have 3 sort of versions of them, one in steel with a bracelet, one in steel with a green rubber strap, and one in titanium with a strap. The titanium one is really innovative. It kind of differentiates itself from many other packs. It sort of has this black and gray aesthetic that isn't similar to many other of these Worldtimers. It has a black ceramic bezel that has this matte that sort of is in contrast with the matte dial texture and blackened hands. It's 43 millimeters, so fairly wearable, but on the larger side for if you are used to that. So a little bit of a different look to it. It's a really beautiful watch. I really love the general aesthetics of it. I think the world timing function is extremely beautiful. The movement is their Meta certified coaxial master chronometer caliber 8938, which you can see through an exhibition case back. It's a really beautiful piece, and actually I really love the fact that Omega has gone into this world timing complication. It's something that I think these, let's call it mid to entry level watch brands don't play around enough with, and the execution of this in the Aquaterra is phenomenal by Omega. So definitely deserves a clap, a round of applause for what they've been able to accomplish. They aren't limited editions, so they'll be normal production. A really beautiful example, and one that I would 100% add to my line of watches if you're interested in sort of sporty watches with classic complications. It truly is a beautiful piece. Definitely take a look at the pictures if you want to see it. Go to the link in the show notes, because it really is a beautiful looking watch. I know we went from Audemars Piguet to Omega, which is a little bit different. I wanted to talk about this pretty cool Big Bang Unico that was made by Hublot. This is a Big Bang Unico that was made from Nespresso capsules and coffee grounds. So this is probably something that you might feel is kind of strange and, it's just a gimmick, but the watch is awesome. It's this, it basically took these products and created this incredible watch that is quite different. It is limited to 200 pieces. I think Hublot sometimes gets a lot of comments about the fact that they create these limited edition watches and everything's a limited edition. So really, is there such thing as a limited edition? I do think that that limited editions can become overkill, but at the same time, I do think that when you do something interesting like this, to sort of support maybe the recycling of products that are not reusable, I think there's an added level there. So I'll just quickly read a little bit from this article. The Big Bang Unico Nespresso Origin is the first watch to be made using recycled Nespresso aluminum capsules in coffee grounds. The case, the bezel, the crown, and the pushers are made from recycled aluminum. A healthy 28% of the aluminum composite used to make the case comes from actual Nespresso coffee capsules. So it's a small fraction, but still a significant portion. Used coffee grounds from Nespresso capsules are somehow transformed into a watch strap. The strap includes 4.1% coffee grounds and 8.2% of recycled white rubber. There's an additional strap made from 100% recycled fabrics, which is composed of 5% coffee grounds and 95% recycled polyester. So you definitely have to take this with a grain of salt. This 42mm watch obviously has portions of it made from these materials, but it still is drawing attention to the idea that these are recyclable products, and it's something that we should keep our eyes on when we are thinking about the way we want to go about the world. It has a really beautiful chronograph movement, open work dials, so you can see the movement, and when you flip it over, obviously you can see the through the display of the case back, the HUB 1280 movement. If I had a choice between this and maybe a Royal Oak, who knows what I would choose. I'm not really a coffee drinker, but I do know a lot of people who love coffee and love Nespresso. And I think this obviously has some sort of part to play in the idea of sustainability. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the third Seiko collaboration that Rowing Blazers had with to produce these really beautiful Seiko watches. What's really cool about these watches is obviously this isn't the first time that this has happened. They've created a Seiko 5 Sport limited edition for Rowing Blazers. If you look at the dial of these pieces, I should say that it comes in a couple dial colors. It comes in purple, pink, yellow, and white. I've seen the pink dial a ton on Instagram. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty pretty cool. But it's a 41mm Seiko 5 with a customized dial with rowing blazers written towards 6 o'clock. It really is a beautiful watch, a nice collaboration, and has drawn a lot of attention from collectors. I think that the idea with this is that it actually hits really nicely with summer. These colors are not, your typical black or blue or maybe like a dark green. You've got purple, pink, yellow, and white, which really stand out. I think this is another way of the watch industry actually trying to have a little bit of fun, making things that are going to be desired by collectors and allow you to have, it really is fun. I think that's the crux of it. There's a really nice event at Rowing Blazer in New York to launch these. There was a couple that were sold as well. As I mentioned, these are all over Instagram. Steel case, purple, pink, yellow, and white dials. I would love to get my hands on one of these to try it. I'm not a Seiko collector. I don't typically wear Seiko watches just because it hasn't really sparked my attention at all. But who knows? I have interacted with many Seikos in my life. It's a beautiful watch. It has an English and Japanese date on it too. So obviously is making sure that it's in line with what Seiko is. Each of the dial colors is limited to 880 pieces. And $495 US for one of these. $495 US dollars for one of these makes it pretty attainable, pretty collectible. If I was to have one of them, I think I would go for the purple. I really like the deep purple. I think my least favorite is probably the yellow, but that's just my aesthetic. It'll be interesting to see which ones are the most popular, and for sure these are going to be super fun. They were released and were included at select retailers, Rowing Blazers, Seiko USA, the Hodinkee shop, and then the Rowing Blazers flagship store in New York City. So if you're buying any of those or shopping in those places, check them out. So a lot is happening, tons going on around the watch industry. Some things that I didn't mention was Cerato was named... Davide Cerato was named, or Cerato was named as the new CEO of Prémont. There were watch spottings at the Met Gala. There's tons that have happened. So if you follow any publications, you'll definitely be reading about these things. But going into the summer with a lot of watch enthusiasm, which is very exciting. Stay tuned on the podcast and also lifeonthewrist.com if you want to read some articles about what's going on in the watch industry. You can also follow us on Instagram. We post pretty heavily there, so you can see everything that's going on. And you might as well hit us up there as well if you want to talk about watches. As I mentioned, there'll be links in the show notes to all of the watches and the news that I've discussed on this podcast. So head over to the show notes if you want to see those. I encourage you to follow along to see the pictures of the things that we're speaking about. If you are new to Life on the Wrist podcast, be sure to follow us. And if you are feeling generous and wouldn't mind rating this podcast, it really does help me out. With that said, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And until next time.